Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I am Coach Sherry, and I was just thinking the other day, and I've been thinking about this here lately about how people are judged by their outer and not what's on the inside, and especially not what's in their mind. So it's about don't judge a book by its cover. And I know you've probably heard that in some form of fashion through the years. It is an old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. What is glittering is not always gold. And that statement is so true. And I'm finding it even more so now, especially in the workforce. There are so many people that, may have a certain look, may have a certain style, and it fits with the culture. It fits with what they're trying to present. But they may not know anything. They may not have good ideas. They may not be innovative. And then you have the people in the back in the kitchen that have so many great ideas. They have their own style. They're rocking to their own beat. They have so much to contribute, and they are being overlooked. We are living in a society where we can no longer overlook those that don't show the same reflection as we do when we look in the mirror. It's not about everyone looking the same, being the same. That's not what makes the world go around. What makes the world go around is the diversity of everyone and what they can bring. That's why, I always mention, where I grew up and how I grew up and how, we had some challenges in my hometown. We absolutely did. But in the midst of it all, once we all got to the table, it was, what can you contribute? What are your ideas? How can you help us move this forward? It's all hands on deck. And that's how it needs to be in every arena, in every area that we are in our lives. Every hand needs to be accounted for, regardless if they have on a St. John suit or a Walmart suit. What you have on, what you choose to put on your body has no indication of what you know, of your knowledge base, of your experience. And so when I sit back and I observe people that do judge people for how they look, what they have on, who they're friends with, I find that hilarious. You know, I remember being part of an organization years and years ago when my children were smaller. It was an organization primarily for Black mothers, but the fathers were involved too. And it's really for the mothers and the children. It was to increase social capital. I'm not going to name the name of the organization. If you know, you know. And, it was, I want to say it was a relatively elite club, let's call it. And, and I remember my husband kind of went kicking and screaming when we were invited to be involved with it. And, just from his experiences growing up, I had similar experiences with it growing up. And I really wasn't feeling it either. I wasn't really, 100% behind it. But I had met some women that were part of it, and I really liked them. I rocked with them. They were cool. They were down. I don't like the word down to earth, because what does that mean? Aren't we all down to earth? But they were cool. And so I was like, it should be cool. This will be a good group. I think this is different. We're in the South, everyone is from someplace else. And I really think this is going to be a great group. And initially it was, the fathers were cool. Everybody was good. It was a whole vibe. We got a lot of things done. Our children got along with a lot of women in this group, and they bring in groups, at a time. It's not like pledging, but you have to go through an initiation process. You have to apply, you have to be accepted, and all these things. Um, at any rate, it was good. It was really good those first couple of years. I got to know most of the women. I ended up being on the executive board somehow. I don't even know how. And when I was going through that initiation process, a group of women and I became really close because we were all mothers of three, and that's what we called each other, mothers of three. And it was four of us, and we lived in different parts of town. Charlotte is huge. The outskirts of Charlotte is even bigger, and people live on different parts. And listen, if you are looking to relocate to Charlotte, you need to know your personality, because each area in Charlotte really addresses the different types of personality. You know, you will find your tribe in those areas because those types of people like you typically would live there. You know, they have a north side, a south side, a east side, a west side, northwest, northeast. You know, so it's all different areas and there's outskirts, you know, smaller towns that are still part of the county. But at any rate, the four of us, we all lived in different areas of Charlotte, but we all had, you know, kindred spirits. We all were very similar in many things in our life, and we got along very well. And so I remember fast forwarding, you know, a couple of years in, and I'm at an executive board meeting, and one of the four had a challenge with her marriage, and it devastated her in every way. And I knew about it because she was part of the Mother of Three tribe, and you know, we were trying to do our best to support her the best way that we could, and you know, being confidential with it, not spreading her business out in the street or anything. But in this particular executive board meeting, I remember, you know, mothers were talking about her, and they didn't say her name, but I knew who they were talking about. And what they were saying was making me so furious. Oh my goodness. First of all, even if you are part of a group and, you know, you may quote unquote fit in, sometimes even if you fit in, they don't really want you there. People, be mindful of people that are always complimenting you, that you know, look at you and say how fly you may be, how beautiful you are, how put together you are, how brilliant you are, how smart you are, how you know, successful you are. Be mindful sometimes of the people that are continuously complimenting those areas in your life and of your person, because they don't always wish you well. Sometimes those compliments have a double-edged sword, and are the double-edged sword, where on the other end they want to cut you, they want to knock you down, they want to see you fall, they don't wish you well, they don't want you to be beautiful, they don't want you to be successful, they don't want you to be smart, they don't want you to be happy, they don't want you to be a contributor, they don't want you to be liked, they don't want you to be loved. You know, all of those things on the other side, but in your face, while you know, while you up, they're like, oh, blah blah blah. Well, that's how I was feeling with the things they were saying about her, because I was like, yo, these are people that I thought rocked with her, that, you know, were always like riding her coattail type of thing. And I was so furious, and I was sitting there like in my own fury, because I was like, yo, I can't believe it. And towards the end, you know, I had to say something. I'm that one that I just can't hold it. And they all was like, oh, you know, you don't know who we're talking about, you know, because she lived like on a complete other side of town from me. And they was like, I don't think, you know, sis, I don't think you know who we're talking about, blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? Yes, I do. And because they didn't say her name, I didn't want to say her name just in case they weren't speaking about her. You know, I don't want to put it all out there, but you know, I still was fighting to the bitter end about it. And that really turned me off from that entire organization. And we pulled away as a family, we pulled away and stopped participating, you know, withdrew our membership or whatever you want to call it. Because it wasn't a good space. It wasn't healthy. And she's doing phenomenal now. You know, they knocked her down. They kept her down while she was knocked down. She ended up rolling out of the organization too, and now she's doing phenomenal without them. And so I'm just saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. If you see someone with a string of pearls, a St. John suit on, that doesn't mean that they have it all together. That doesn't mean that they're happy. That doesn't mean that things are, you know, rosy. If you see someone with ripped jeans on, not on purpose, you know, just jeans that are tattered. If you see some people that, you know, just may have some issues, may have a limp, may have, you know, whatever the case may be, embrace them, pull them in, wrangle them in, because they are a contributor. They have something to say. They have something that is valuable too. Don't just look at what you see on the outside and think that's the value, because you don't know what's going on the inside. And don't look at something on the outside that doesn't look like it's worth anything, because it has so many gems on the inside. And it's just amazes me how people, they view others in that way. It's about the title. Oh, what level are they at? What? Are you kidding me? Because sometimes they got to that level just from circumstances of who they knew. It's not because of them getting it from the mud. And so the title to me means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. I respect everyone. I don't give anyone more or less respect. The one that the most high that I respect is God. And you're not God, everybody's the same to me on the field. So I just wanted to come on here and let you know, do not judge a book by its cover. Understand that everyone has many layers. So don't discredit people because maybe they don't look like you or the people that you want to rock with. Don't give people all the credit because they look like you and they typically are the ones you want to rock with, because you just don't know. So be mindful, be observant. Take your time with people, really get to know who they are on the inside, because you can already see what's on the outside typically. But what's on the outside is no indication. We are all God's children and are great, wonderfully made in his eyes. He carried the cross for you and for me. Well, that's all I have for you right now. I will be back later, God willing, with a short or something, y'all. I'm keeping this algorithm moving over here at Coach Sherry, and I appreciate you for tuning in. If you liked this message, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not yet part of this team, I would love to have you and rock with me. And, let's do this together. Remember, every day, practice so hard that when you get into play, you will always, and I mean it, always play to win. I am Coach Sherry.